Hello and welcome to lesson 3 of week 1. In this lesson, we are going to look at metaclasses, closures, and decorators in Python. My name is Mildred. Now, a closure occurs when an inner function remembers the variables of the outer function, even after the function has finished executing. And now, when you refer to functional programming, we know that whenever we create a function and a function hits the return statement, it returns the value to the calling program, and then everything about the function is forgotten. That is the end. But when we have a closure, we have an inner function that will remember the value of the outer function variables even after it finishes executing. And so let's create one. Let's say we want to have a function called multiplier. Now this multiplier is going to have a parameter. The user will supply a factor, and then we have an inner function that we call multiply. Right now, this multiply, we're going to supply a number n. So the outer function will get the factor, the inner function will get the number we want to multiply. And what we want to do here is return n times the factor. Alright, so n times the factor that we supply, and then here this function has finished executing. Outside of this, we want to return multiply. Alright, so we return this function. Now whenever we want to call this function like this, what we do is to, let's say we create a variable. Let's call this variable double. Now we say double is equal to, we call the function multiplier and provide the factor 2. Now we have the multiplier with the factor 2. Now this double can serve like a function, so this is what is called a closure. And let's say we want to print or print double, and we know that when we do this, it has an inner function, and we'll supply what do we want to multiply by it. So we'll supply it in this double, and let's say 10, so we can return 20, and so we see 20 here. Now as we go along, you'll see what the use case of this is, and one of the cases that we'll use this for is when we want to create decorators, as we'll see shortly. Now let's look at meta classes, and a meta class just defines how classes behave. Just like classes create objects, we have meta classes who create classes. For instance, we can create a custom meta class that we can use to maybe call or want to write the name of the function that created something. So we use this for like ORM frameworks like Django, if we are creating a framework, or we're having auto registering of classes, or we want to enforce coding styles, things like that. So let's do an example of a meta class. Let's say that I want to be able to call a method of a class, and it will tell me what class or what class executes or what class has this function, for instance. So let's say I have a class and I'll call this my meta class. Now the default meta class type, right? So I want to create a method here. I'll use new. So you want to look at the different meta classes that we have in Python. You want to look at the different magic methods we also have, and you understand what these all are in Python. We've seen different types in the course of our Python fundamental classes if you took our class, and I have the link to the videos for the Python fundamental when we did these topics to explain to you why we have this. We have init that automatically initializes, we have the string and all of that, and know the meaning. So I want you to research further. So here, let's say we have the class, we provide the name, provide basis, and then attributes like this. Now we want to say the attributes, the key here created by should be equal to, let's say created by let's call this Mildred meta class, something like that. And we want to return here, let's say return super new name basis. So refer to week 8 lessons in the Python fundamental course for you to recall how we do this object-oriented programming in Python, but I'm not going to go into the basic details. Let's say we have another class here and we call this class test. So let's call this class test, and we want to say the meta class that we are using here. So test meta class is equal to my meta class, and then now I'm going to just use pass, because all I want to do is to have this. Where this will be useful is when you create things that you're creating a framework or something. And if I print something like let me create an object of this, let's say test dot. So because we are inheriting from this, we want to get created by. So let's say test dot created by, because we have an attribute created by that we created. If I print this, it will tell me that it's Mildred meta class here. Here is S here, right? So when I run, I have Mildred meta class because that's what I want to print. So we'll see how to use this when we're building our apps as we go along in this. In Python, we have built-in modules, and then we have decorators. Now Python ships with some essential additional modules like the math module, the datetime module. We have the JSON module that we are going to see in the next lesson. We have the OS and the SYS module. You can refer to your Python fundamental course where we looked at some of these modules, and we're going to use a lot of them in this data science course that we are doing. Let's say we want to use a module that is inbuilt in Python. We want to use, for instance, the math module. We'll just import math, and then we're going to use methods from this module as we define our function. Let's say I want to print out the square root of two numbers. The math module has a square root property that we can use. When I say print math dot square root like this, and I want the square root, let's say 16. So it will be 4 times 4 gives us 16, so we'll get 4, right? So things like this. So read more about inbuilt modules. We have done that in the fundamental course. If you don't know it, refer to our Python fundamental pre-recorded videos that was linked in your week 0 resource and go over it to get an understanding. Now we have something we call decorators that we use to wrap a function to add a behavior to a function. And then when you know that we have some inbuilt modules, you can use some things as a decorator. But let's create a basic decorator, and as we'll need this as we go along. Let's say we want to have a decorator that will log, like you can do a decorator for login, for authentication, for timing, performance, for hashing. Okay, and we're going to use some of these. Python has some decorators. You can read about decorators to know. But let's create a decorator function called this log, and here we'll pass in a function here, and let's create an inner function. And so now you see we are using closure to do this. Now the inner function here let's call this a wrapper, dev wrapper, and now we're going to supply args that we don't know in advance and keyword args that we don't also know. So let's say we want to print something that when the user calls this function, it will write calling the name of the function. All right, and we have this name that we use to be able to get the name of a function. So if we put like passing a function here, so to print here we'll say func dot name like this. So let's say we're going to print something like, let's use a format string f, let's say calling, let's put is calling this func dot name, and let's put some dots, and then we want to return, when it does that, we want to return the function, and we want to return the argument passed, and we want to also return the keyword argument, something like this, and then we return the inner function wrapper. So this is how you always return your function. The outer function final return will be the inner function. So when we do this, we now use closures. So how do we use a decorator? So let's say we have a function called greet, and for this greet we want to just print, let's say we'll print hello, right? So if I call this function here and I call this function greet, when I run this, it will print hello for me. But I want to use a decorator. We use the add log. So when you use a framework, you will see that we always use decorators. So when I use this log, now this is going to be like I'm using this decorator, which means that it's going to take this function and pass it into here, and it's going to say calling the name of the function and then print this. So when I run this, I'll see calling greet hello. Okay, so this is one you use. So you can create your own decorator. You can use Python decorators. They exist. You want to read about decorators in Python and what exists. This course is high paced, and there are many instances where you need to read advanced or read some basics, and as we will not be going through basic definition. In the next lesson, we are going to look at JavaScript object notations, look at the HTTP request, and how to build a basic API. Thank you, and see you in the next lesson.